Throughout the deadly rounds of Squid games, we've seen players with all kinds of strengths, whether physical, mental, or downright unhinged, fight to survive. But what would happen if more iconic TV show characters stepped into this brutal battle to the death? From unhinged detectives like Debra to emotionally broken outlaws like Jesse Pinkman. In today's video, I'll be ranking how well your favorite TV characters would survive in the infamous Squid games. To start off, let's quickly go over the tier list I'll be using for this video. Just like last time, I'll only be referencing the games from season 1 since they're the most iconic and easily the fan favorite. At the very top, we have characters who I believe could actually win the entire thing, making it to the final round, aka the Squid game, and walking away with the full cash prize. Right below that are the players who could definitely make it to the final round but would fall short in beating their opponent. Next, we have those who I think could survive all the way to the 5th round but would meet their end on the glass stepping stones. Underneath that are the ones who'd make it past a few games but wouldn't survive the marbles game either due to bad luck, poor judgment, or emotional weakness. Following that is the tug of war tier, characters who die mid-game when brute strength and teamwork matter the most. Then there's the honeycomb tier, where I've placed characters who likely wouldn't make it through the sugar shape challenge, whether due to lack of focus, patience, or just low survival instincts. All the way at the bottom is, of course, red light, green light, reserved for the completely incompetent players who die before even understanding what they're in for. And new for this video, I've added a lights out tier, for those who either thrive in chaos and kill to survive, or die because they can't handle it. This round reveals who's really built for the darkness. Now without further ado, let's talk about one of the most emotionally unstable characters on this list, Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
When it comes to Jesse Pinkman, many would assume he would perish fairly early on due to him not really having any out of the ordinary abilities. But to make things interesting, let's just say he was able to sneak in some of that blue sky he cooked up with Mr. White. Now this would put him in a very similar situation we saw in season 2 with Thanos and his candy. As we saw in the show, Thanos was highly dependent on the stuff he was consuming, and it essentially allowed him to be more dialed in when it came to completing the games. However, I would have to place Pinkman at tug of war, and here's why. Unlike Thanos, Jesse actually has a good heart, and although his habits tend to cover it, we see in the show that deep down he's truly a good person who unfortunately got into the wrong kind of things early on in his life. Although he did kill in the show, he struggled immensely to do it and as well suffered from PTSD and great regret. I have a feeling that Pinkman wouldn't be able to assert dominance like Thanos did because he simply isn't that kind of person who kills to show his strength. Instead, I think he would try to help vulnerable players, and by doing so, he would end up in a group that isn't defined by strength, which is what is needed for a game like Tug of War. In the end, I think his blue candy would help him lock in for the hyper-focus games like carving out the shapes in the honeycomb, but he would inevitably fall short later on due to him actually having a sense of innocence, which, as we know, has no place within these gruesome challenges.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Next up, we have the Bay Harbor Butcher himself, Detective Sergeant James Doakes. Now in the past, it was revealed that Doakes was actually involved with special black ops divisions back in his military days where, to put it lightly, he had to make tough calls. On top of that, he worked at Miami Metro for quite a while, to the point where he moved up quite high within the ranks. This is why I would have to place him at glass stepping stones. Although Doakes is very strong and buff, he is after all a cop and officer of the law. As we see in the show, even though Dexter kills only bad guys, Doakes can't help but follow the strict laws that prohibit such vigilante motives, even if the morals are there to a certain extent. And of course, in the Squid games, the laws tend to be much different, kind of like rabid animals enclosed into a zoo. But this wouldn't be Doakes' main downfall. His immaculate physique and strength would for sure allow him to thrive in games like Tug of War and overall defend himself when the lights go out. His intelligence also allows him to get past some of those more mentally demanding games like the Honeycomb one and Red Light Green Light, which required steadiness. Regardless of the glass stepping stones game being lucky bulky to a great extent. Doakes' overall weight, which is mostly muscle, would hinder his ability to jump decent distances and would overall put him in a panic state where he would unfortunately make the wrong move.
Are you in the Mafia?
Am I in the what?
Now, when it comes to one of the most iconic mob bosses in fiction, Tony Soprano, it's interesting to imagine how someone like him would fend within these games. Right off the bat, Tony has some good qualities, but also some others that would drag him down quite a lot. In the show, we see how ruthless he can really be, and his ability to make hard decisions most people aren't capable of doing. However, he isn't all evil, since he does care and love for his family, which tends to bring out the good within him. This is why I'm going to have to place Tony Soprano in Glass Stepping Stones, and here's why. One of his main skills is his ability to become quite resilient and as well take power to form a group that he runs. Like we saw in the series, he's able to lead through confidence, and he ensures none of his men fall out of line by providing great consequences to the ones who do. Although he is way smarter and better of a person than Player 100 from Squid Game Season 2, I can see him going down a similar path as him, but with Tony being even more efficient than the other guy ever was. He would undoubtedly show his sheer strength in games like Tug of War, where his weight would actually be in favor of his survival. But this would be short-lived when coming onto the Glass Stepping Stones. Similar to Doakes, it would be even harder for Tony to effectively jump the glass bridge after all the games prior, which are quite exerting. This, combined with bad luck, would unfortunately lead to his demise, following to his death.
All the good that you do here is thanks to a healthy grant from the Franklin Saint Foundation. Hi, I'm Franklin Saint.
Possibly one of the most underrated characters in recent television history is none other than Franklin Saint. When comparing his characters from start to end, there is hardly any resemblance considering how much he changed throughout the show. For the sake of this video, let's take him all the way at the very ending of the series. This is the perfect version of him to interpret because at this point he's lost all of his money and is damn near homeless. Now, I know that the ending does mention that he now feels free, but for the sake of this scenario, let's assume he wants it all back. All in all, I would have to unfortunately place Franklin Saint at Sugar Honeycomb, and here's why. At the very end of the show, Franklin has become an alcoholic, drinking himself to numb the pain and wandering the streets of California like your average homeless bum. Unlike pills, which Thanos was able to sneak in, alcohol would be very hard to bring in, and especially large amounts of it at that. I believe that Franklin would have to struggle with withdrawals, which would make him shake immensely. Sure, he could possibly get past red light, green light considering it's fairly early on, but by the time he gets to the Sugar Honeycomb, the stability needed to carve out the shape would be almost impossible for him, which would inevitably lead to him dying that early on.
Don't. Stop. Dwight. Dwight, stop.
Oh,
Stop.
no! Oh, no!
Stop.
Oh, no! Yes! Take my
Okay,
rat!
okay.
Huh? You like
okay,
that?
seriously. Okay, okay.
Next up, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Dwight Schrute. Now in The Office, we actually got to see that Dwight might not be as innocent and easy to take on as many might think. Time and time again, he expresses how prepared he is for post-apocalyptic events and that he's highly trained in karate. However, his overall ability to perform these skills is much more lackluster than he likes to brag about. This is why I'm going to have to put him in Lights Out, and here's why. Sure, Dwight could arguably pass red light, green light like the majority of people can, but I really do think he's not made for the gruesome aspect of these games with people dying brutally right in front of his eyes. This would make him a target, as others would see him as this baby who by dying is only gonna up the cash prize even more. On top of that, without any weapons, I highly doubt he would be able to effectively defend himself against more street-styled methods of fighting where karate tends to fall short. Even if he has a black belt, people within the Squid Games often turn to more animalistic ways of handling conflict, which restricts them to nothing. And if I'm being honest, I really don't think Dwight could really kill another human being, because at the end of the day, he is a kid at heart and works a corporate office job that doesn't require him to step out of his comfort zone.
That's my foul-mouthed foster sister, Debra. She has a big heart, but won't let anyone see it. She's the only person in the world who loves me.
When it comes to Dexter Morgan's sister, Debra, it's important to consider which version of her we are actually interpreting for these games. Once again, I'm going to be discussing the version of her we saw in Dexter Season 8, which was broken and off the rails. This puts Debra in a very similar situation as everyone we saw within the games, with them thinking they have nothing else to lose. For this reason, I'm going to have to put Debra Morgan in Squid Game. All in all, Debra does have some fighting skills due to her time as a member of the Miami Metro Police Department. Additionally, her job was literally defined by stress, which would allow her to have an advantage when participating in these challenges. In games like Red Light Green Light, her agility would allow her to easily survive. And although she isn't necessarily strong by any means, I have a good feeling she would be able to socialize properly to get herself in a group she deems fit and strong enough for the challenge. However, after the Glass Stepping Stones game, I believe she would meet her demise at the 1v1 duel that is the Squid Game. Similar to Sang-woo, who had lost so much before coming into the games, I think she would end up regretting everything she's done, and she would realize she wouldn't even be able to live with herself even with this huge sum of money, thus allowing whoever else is on the other side win to give her a sense of purpose in her last moments.
Hello, and welcome to the Los Pollos Hermanos family. My name is Gustavo, but you can call me Gus.
Now next up we have Gus Fring, who is a character many have thought about when seeing how Breaking Bad universe antagonists would do in the Squid Games. From what we saw in both Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, Gus is almost as intelligent as Walter White when it comes to sheer critical thinking in moments of stress. Being surrounded by the mafia and eventually becoming something similar to it, let's just say Gus Fring doesn't really care who dies and who lives as long as he wins at the end of the day. This is why I would have to place Gus at Squid Game, and here's why. Gus's IQ would allow him to easily get past mentally demanding games such as Sugar Honeycomb and Marbles. And although his lackluster physique would allow him to get past Red Light Green Light and the Glass Stepping Stones, this, in my opinion, would cost him the victory at the very end. Gus Fring, as we saw in Breaking Bad, is able to kill without hesitation, but the way he does it is kind of lined up beforehand, which makes it easier said than done. In a 1v1 duel with nothing but a knife, it could be difficult for him to fight someone who maybe has more street fighting experience, such as player 456, who although was your regular gambler, had some fighting experience from having to fend for himself in the streets.
Hello. You?
Up next, we have one of Joe Goldberg's most iconic love interests, who is none other than Love Quinn. Based off what we were shown in the series for the time she was in it, Love Quinn is one hell of a crazy girlfriend who, similar to Joe, will do whatever it takes to ensure the safety and well-being of the ones she loves. However, I'm going to have to put her at Glass Stepping Stones, and here's why. Quinn would thrive when it comes to the lights being out, likely being able to hold her own, whether it be through making a shank or simply killing without hesitation. Her skills as a baker, believe it or not, could possibly influence her ability to be steady and carve out the sugar honeycomb, which she has probably done in one form or another before. But the one thing that would end up getting her killed is, to put simply, her sanity. Without a desired love interest, paired with the fact that killing has become normalized in these games, I have a feeling she would start to go insane. I think that, like the crazy woman in the first season of the Squid Games, she would end up putting her life on the line to take out a possible enemy she encountered or that stabbed her back in the games. This would lead to a similar outcome of her grabbing onto the person who went behind her back and bringing both of them to a brutal death all the way to the bottom of the ground.
Hi. You're Rick, right? I'm Negan. And I do not appreciate you killing my men.
When it comes to one of the most redeemed antagonists in fiction, Negan, it's important that we consider which version of him would be participating in the games. To make things interesting, let's take the version of him that takes place just as the apocalypse started soon after his wife died. This makes it realistic to how most people are when showing up to the Squid Games, basically having lost everything they have. Due to this, I would actually place Negan at Squid Games, and here's why. As we saw in The Walking Dead, Negan managed to build an empire thriving in a post-apocalyptic world. Not only that, but he was able to make them worship him, taking on the mantle of a prophet of some sort. By doing so, he provided for those who bowed down to him and lived like a king. I think something very similar would take place in the Squid Games, with him being able to lead the majority of people who want to keep the games going. This security would allow him to pretty much fly through all the games, making others sacrifice themselves for him so he can move to the next round. However, like we saw with Player 100 in Squid Game Season 3, his ability to manipulate others does run out at some point or another. This is why I think in the final 1v1, Negan would get what was coming for him all this time, which is karma. From what we saw in the show, Player 456 technically came out on top both times he played due to his kindness and ability to maintain some innocence in what essentially is hell.
This is possibly the finest salad I've ever eaten in my life. Shame to ruin it with all that meat.
Shut up.
When it comes to Hannibal Lecter, you might assume he'd dominate from the jump, and honestly, you wouldn't be wrong. This is someone who's not only a highly intelligent psychiatrist, but also a cold-blooded killer with an insane level of emotional control. Now, unlike someone such as Jesse Pinkman, Hannibal wouldn't be fazed by the morality of these games. In fact, he might actually enjoy them. If anything, Lights Out would be where Hannibal truly thrives. We've seen him operate in total chaos, manipulating people in the dark both literally and psychologically. While most players would be panicking or defending themselves, Hannibal would be out there choosing targets with surgical precision. But where he really stands out is in the long game. He knows how to blend in, gain trust, and then turn on you without hesitation. This means he'd cruise through marbles by exploiting his opponent emotionally, and even the glass stepping stones, a game most rely on luck for, could potentially be outsmarted by Hannibal. As someone who's worked with glass instruments and has a surgeon's eye, I could actually see him spotting the difference between tempered and normal glass if given enough time. In the final Squid Game, he wouldn't flinch. While most players by then would be mentally and physically broken, Hannibal would still be composed. He doesn't form attachments, he doesn't panic, and most importantly, he kills without hesitation. That's why I would have to put him at the very top, winner tier. Because if there's one person who walks out of the Squid Games with the prize, it's Hannibal Lecter. Now keep in mind that this tier list is my opinion for the most part, but I do think I did a decent job at ranking these diverse characters accurately. If you enjoyed this video and would like more early access ad-free content, please go check out my Patreon as it helps a ton. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Lastly, join the Discord to discuss all your favorite pieces of media. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.